I will be the first to say that the first 4 contests haven't gone exactly as I'd hoped. If you want to change the outcome in the next contest, go to ElizabethWarren.com, chip in now, get involved. Super Tuesday's 3 days away. We want to gain as many delegates to the convention as we can, from California to right here in Texas. You know, it may take days or even longer to know the full results from Super Tuesday, but they will be critical in sorting out who our nominee will be this year. My campaign is built for the long haul, and we are looking forward to these big contests. Donald Trump has already shown he is not up to the task. So let's talk about who Democrats should nominate. Now, I'm going to be blunt here. And this crisis demands more than a senator who has good ideas, but whose 30-year track record shows he consistently calls for things that fail to get done and consistently opposing things that nevertheless he fails to stop.
Now let me start by saying I have a lot of love for Senator Elizabeth Warren. She has a good progressive platform, the closest to Bernie's of all the candidates in the 2020 primary for American president. She has an ability to explain complicated things in simple terms in a way that Sanders is perhaps not as dynamic and diverse in his rhetoric. Well, sometimes I think it gets a bit repetitious with Sanders. I even stopped watching all of his rallies online. Can be a bit of a drag. However, after the South Carolina results, and now that I'm just hearing of an impending dropout of Mayor Buttigieg of South Bend, Indiana, and I'm also hearing about communications between his campaign and Vice President Biden's campaigns, which could suggest a possible alliance in the moderate lane going forward. I'm trying to understand the Warren rationale. You see, after coming third in Iowa with 8 delegates, which is still her current total, 4th in New Hampshire, 4th in Nevada, and 5th in South Carolina, so it's 8 delegates from the first state run, the first caucus in Iowa. There's no clear evidence of enough multiracial and multi-demographic appeal for Elizabeth Warren. Basically, black and brown people don't vote for her, and her only reliable get are college-educated white people, typically middle class. So why, after the South Carolina primary, is Warren and her campaign now making this a delegate-gathering race? That's right. She has now, if you analyze her words, she is saying she doesn't have to win any states. Just get enough delegates in anticipation of a contested convention, where the person with the highest number of delegates, I guess she presumes, will not reach the 50% minimum needed to win the nomination outright. Now, I'm trying to understand her logic, and if I'm being fair and assuming the best of her, maybe, just maybe, she feels that at this point a very small fraction of the total number of states and votes have been cast. Super Tuesday will give us a third of the states. That is huge, and will probably shape and narrow down how the rest of the race goes. I understand that and agree with that logic. I do. However, my question to Warren is this. What is it that she wants to happen if she does not win? Who is her preferred nominee, if not her? If I could get inside her head and dig out the answer to that question, I would sell a fraction of my soul, because that answer will tell me a lot about Elizabeth Warren. See, because I'm not sure over time whether it's bad political instincts or self-interest or stubbornness that has informed her actions. One thing I cannot do is make a justified argument that Bernie Sanders deserves her votes, because nobody deserves anyone's votes. If Bernie deserved a Warren vote, it would not be a Warren vote. It would be a Bernie vote. Let's get that clear and out of the way. Now, Warren was a very interesting star of the progressive wing of the 2020 campaign. Make no mistake. In fact, in many ways, I think she helped Bernie by making many good arguments and actually shielding him when she was starting to build and poll well very early on. She took a lot of the fire, I would say, in the early stages that would have otherwise gone to Bernie. She took that. She, in fact, went up in the polls after the first two debates.
Why do we got to be the party of taking something away from people?
No one is the party.
That's
one
what
second,
they're
Senator.
running on. They're running on telling half the country that your health insurance is illegal. It says it right in the bill.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to support any plan that rips away quality health care from individuals. This is an example of wish list economics.
So I think Democrats win when we run on real solutions, not impossible promises. When we run on things that are workable, not fairy tale economics.
You know, I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for. I don't get it. We are the Democrats. We are not about trying to take away health care from anyone. That's what the Republicans are trying to do.
But I do think it is appropriate to acknowledge that taxes will go up.
At least Bernie's being honest here and saying how he's going to pay for this and that taxes are going to go up. And I'm sorry, Elizabeth, but you have not said that. And I think we owe it to the American people to tell them where we're going to send the invoice.
My question is not why do Bernie and I support a wealth tax? It's does everyone else on this stage think it is more important to protect billionaires than it is to invest in an entire generation of Americans?
Thank you, Senator.
And come over the last 7 months to July and look at how much they have improved. In the most recent poll, both Senator Harris and Senator Warren passing Bernie Sanders, former Vice President Biden coming down. So you've got a close race at the top of the pack here, but the two women senators right now, they are the ascendant candidates in this race heading into round two.
Last night's fourth Democratic debate cemented a new frontrunner amongst the crowded pack, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Currently the fastest rising candidate in the polls, Warren spent her night defending everything from her health care plan to her proposed tax on the wealthy.
Because at that point, with so many candidates in the field, it was basically her and Sanders against the world. It's almost like they had their backs up against each other, fighting it out against the rest of the field, which was mostly moderates. At some point, some argue based on some of her odd political choices, for example, like not admitting taxes will be the thing to replace premiums, co-pays and deductibles to fund Medicare for all. She went from polling upwards to peaking as the leading nominee to then going down in the polls and doing badly in the first four contests. Projected to not do much better in Super Tuesday with 14 states to come. Warren supporters have the highest second choice as Bernie Sanders. So although she earned that number one, Warren, I assume, still sees herself as progressive. If she's doing this, expecting a contested convention, she's also pushing for a contested convention, because dropping out now gives Sanders a better chance of avoiding a contested convention, and her not dropping out gives him a lesser chance of reaching the 50% threshold, because right now Sanders is leading in national polls quite clearly. So what is Warren's play right now? Because typically most candidates are thinking about their own viability to reach the top of the numbers by the end and avoid embarrassment, and also, crucially, narrow things down so as not to dilute the options and give people a clearer choice. Warren, up to this point, as a progressive, I felt she made poor political decisions. For the first time, I'm thinking this could be, stubbornness or self-interest. Stubbornness in the sense that as the most viable female to get delegates, I think she may just be digging her heels in to prove, for example, that Sanders was wrong about what she claims he said some time back, that a woman cannot be president, even though we have no proof he actually said that. It's just hearsay between the two of them. But maybe she's digging that part of her heels in to say, hey, I'm just going to play this out and show you that I can do this. Now that's the stubbornness. The other one is self-interest. In a cabinet position sense, She could be making a play to get delegates so she can have leverage in the end to push for a cabinet position, if not VP, so maybe treasurer or secretary of commerce. In the end, it could be both self-interest and stubbornness. I don't know. Either way, it hurts the progressive movement for one main reason. It gives us less leverage at a time when we need as much leverage as possible. And right now, leverage means one progressive getting as many delegates as possible, as opposed to everyone getting a thinner slice. She may get some delegates, but will she get enough to then form a strong united front with Bernie? That's the only thing I see happening that might benefit Bernie in the end, or at least the progressive agenda. A Warren and Bernie delegation versus the rest. That's assuming she's still on our side. At this point, it's a big assumption, but possible. Another likely outcome is a weaker case for everyone, and then leaving it up to the process at the superdelegate and party insider level. Who here believes that a more even spread of delegates amongst candidates will lead to the process, the infrastructure, and the establishment giving the nomination to either Sanders or Warren? And when I say nomination, I don't mean VP. And we all know Sanders will not be anyone's VP at his age. Let's be clear. So it's only Warren as a VP as a constellation of the moderates with the progressives. So following this to its logical conclusion, either Elizabeth Warren is not a left progressive, or she is, but she believes she can come out as an influential delegate who can help buttress Bernie, or more likely, she is gunning for VP or a cabinet position. So my question to her is this. With all the capital you have gathered, not much, but significant, and at a time where the difference between real structural change and a return to incrementalism is hanging by a possible thread, is this the time to do what is well within your rights and get those votes that you deserve and that you earned by continuing on in this race? Or maybe, just maybe, in the spirit of not me, us, would you consider making a sacrifice for a greater good? That's my question to Elizabeth Warren. Would you consider it? And that's my take.